So, hello everyone, and welcome to the Profiles in World Scouting series. It's a new series by the Boy Scouts of America International Committee where we will be sharing the stories of leaders within the World Scouting community to engage, inform, and inspire scouts to gain a better understanding of the World Scouting community at large. By engaging in international scouting, young people can become better global citizens. And the hope is that through these profiles, we can celebrate the work of international scouting while also fostering cultural awareness. And I can't think of a better person to help kick this off than one of the Boy Scouts of America's very own, Mr. John Perea. How are you doing, John?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Connor, how are you?
Doing good. Thanks for asking. Now, John here has worn many hats in the World Scouting community and just scouting in general. But rather than having me list them all off, let's just hear from the man himself. So, John, tell us about your current role in scouting and what does that entail?
For sure. So, on the professional side, I am currently the Dialogue for Peace intern at the World Scout Bureau based in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. And then on the volunteer side, I am an associate advisor for my crew, as well as involved in a couple of national committees, such as the National Venturing Communications Committee and the BSA Alumni Committee as well.
Wow, I mean, John, that's incredible. I mean, like, I definitely have to follow up with you on quite a few of those things. But
Sure.
before we get into that, I just gotta ask you, how did you first get into scouting?
So great question. I first got involved when my brother was involved. I always wanted to he's younger than me, he's 5 years younger than me. I always wanted to be involved in scouts, but we just didn't have a ton of cash to do so. So we finally saved up a bit and we were able to get my brother. I did sports, and so my brother was able to do scouts instead. I got really, really jealous, but we still couldn't afford to send off two people to scouts. So at 16, I got a job, and by 16 and a half, I saved up to get a car, and then I could drive myself to meetings. And that was my first introduction to scouting. I was just a regular old Boy Scout going to troop meetings every week and going hiking every other week.
Love to hear it. And just kind of along the same lines, could you just like walk us through your scouting journey? Like, what were some of the turning points in your scouting career? Like, obviously, you mentioned like one of them getting your own car. So,
Yeah, for sure. So some of the turning points, I think the biggest one was when I found out I couldn't get Eagle because of time requirements. As many of you out there will understand, there are quite some time requirements to getting Eagle Scout, and I just didn't have the time before I turned 18 to actually achieve it. So I got a little less involved for a few months, and then when my friends introduced me to this lovely thing called the venturing program, and I got very quickly involved in that. A few months after I got involved in that, we went to the 2017 National Jamboree. I found out what the Venturing Officers Association was, and I got very plugged into that very quickly. And through that, I just kept getting tapped on the shoulder for different roles, and one thing led to another, and eventually I ended up being a regional vice president, and then that's when for the Southern region. And I think that specifically was when I realized, okay, this is something that I can really sink my teeth into, and I can really, really get involved in and make a really big impact. And so just from there, I think that was my biggest turning point. Was I realized the Scouts helped me. The other big turning point was in NYLT. I was, I think, the oldest participant we've ever had in NYLT history. I was 19 years old, almost 20, and it helped me to understand basic leadership and basic communication skills. A lot of things that I take for granted now, but I did not know they existed beforehand. And it was through NYLT specifically that made me realize that I could make an impact at the regional level, at the area level, back when those existed. And it was those skills that I learned at NYLT that really helped me develop my confidence as a young citizen. And I think NYLT and the regional VOA are really my big turning points. And then obviously we have international turning points, but we'll get to those later. So
yeah, certainly. I mean, just as one VOA member, NYLT grad, like to another, just I would certainly say those are also some big turning points in my own scouting career. So, I mean, just that sounds like an incredible journey. But I mean, like, I just know that what I may ask is kind of a tough question to answer. But if you have to pick out just a couple of snapshots
oh man.
from your journey, just tell us about some of your favorite. scouting memories?
Yeah, for sure. So one of my favorite scouting memories of all time was when this is when I was really young, when I was 16, and it was my first outing. One kid had access to um those those like yearly memberships that people will join for like the community pool. So he had access to the clubhouse there because his mom was on the advisory board or something, and we just stayed there overnight, and it was great. We had like an all-night pool party. We baked potatoes, we put them in tin foil, or aluminum foil, which probably isn't the greatest idea, and we just threw them in the fire for a few minutes, and we ate out of those, and it was really nice. I felt a very strong sense of community, and I think that was the big hook, right? That was my big turn. That was my big snapshot that I remember, like ingrained in my memory of, okay, this is Scouts is great. This is actually really fun. I actually really it was worth all the hype, and I really do want to stay involved with it. Um, and then another snapshot was probably when I got surprised with an award. I helped spoiler alert, I helped I sort of kind of save a life on the way to the World Jamboree, actually in the car that I saved up for from my first job to get to Scouts. I was driving up alone, and a vehicle overturned in front of me. And so I called 911, helped them get out. And one of my mentors from scouting years ago was actually driving behind me and saw all this happen. And so they reported it. And then a few days later, I was surprised by a few of the people from the World Jamboree with the National Medal of Merit, and that was very nice. I really appreciated that. But I genuinely felt like it was just the right thing to do. I did not see the award coming at all. I just thought it was something that you learn in wilderness first aid and all the other first aid classes, and it just seemed like the right scouting thing to do. I think those are probably two of my other biggest snapshots that are kind of ingrained in my memory, along with, of course, the National Jamboree, the World Jamboree. Those are stellar events. Multi-week long events that they're so ingrained in my head there, and I've taken so much away from them, from new experiences that I would have never gotten in my hometown, and new connections all over the world that I just couldn't have imagined.
John, you're a lifesaver, like literally.
Stop it.
Incredible. So, I mean, just before we dive into the nitty gritty details of your adventures with World Scouting, just I'd like to ask, what do you do outside of scouting? Just tell us about John the person.
Yeah, sure thing. So I'm a social entrepreneurship major with a concentration in global issues at Georgia State University. That basically means I want to start businesses to help alleviate global problems. And like 90% of the people watching this, I'm really into rock climbing. I'm really into hiking. I also work on cars in my free time. It's just as a hobby, and I love spending time with friends. I love going out with friends, and just I have four roommates. They're four lovely roommates, and we do tons of activities together, from impromptu photo shoots in the living room to just taking a drive up to North Georgia to go hiking.
John the person sounds like an awesome guy. So,
Thank you.
so as I mentioned earlier, let's just now circle back to kind of the heart of this profile, which is your work with World Scouting, whether it be as a Cantersteg staffer or the Dialogue for Peace program intern. So just kind of break this question down into multiple parts, I guess. Just tell us more about your experiences as a staffer, as a Pinky at Cantersteg, and also about your work as an intern for the Dialogue for Peace program and why it's so important for Scouts.
Sure thing. So let's talk about Condorstag first. So, which is actually the scarf that I am currently wearing. This is the scarf you get once you've completed a full season at KISC, Condorstag International Scout Center, KISC for short. So I first applied for KISC when I was staffing NYLT, funny enough. And then on the actual week that we were staffing, I found out a few months later that I actually got in. So scouting, love scouting. And I went there for the autumn season. So from autumn of 2019, which is September to December-ish. I was there for 3 months on contract, and then a month and a half afterwards off contract during the winter season. And I was there during low season, which is basically when there aren't a ton of guests, but there is still a lot of work to be done. So we were deep cleaning, we were cooking for staff, we were making sure the chalet was up to par for when we have a ton of guests or high season during winter and summer. So we were chopping wood for campfires, we were deep cleaning the entire chalet, and basically we had the entire center to ourselves, which is an insane feeling, because right before then I participated in International Rover Week during high season in summer, and it's a completely different place. And then as I mentioned, I then was there for a month and a half off contract working as a winter staffer, and it transforms in from this beautiful international permanent mini jamboree type feeling during the summer to this unbelievable winter wonderland in the winter where everything's covered in snow, and it's gorgeous. I can't describe it and well enough in words, but it was a gorgeous feeling. And I was the only person from the USA there while I was working in the autumn season, which was a massive culture shock. And I thought I was a pretty worldly person before then, right? I studied global issues. I have tons of sociology classes about globalization. I thought I knew a lot about the world, and I was so wrong until when I got to Counterstack, because I realized, as the only out of 40 something staff, as the only person from the USA, there's so much out there that you just don't know exists until you're really there. And there was only one representative from Brazil, one from Colombia, a few from Denmark, one from Uganda, and those are just one people. Those are just one person, one representative that's heavily involved in scouts that you get to see. And it just shows you how much there is out there that we just don't know about unless you get out there. And the similar thing happened when I was at the 2019 World Jamboree as well. You just don't know what's out there until you experience it. Moving on to the Dialogue for Peace internship at the World Scout Bureau. Essentially, my role is to revamp the Dialogue for Peace program. It's kind of been dormant for the past few years, but we would like to bring it to the forefront of World Scouting programs and initiatives. Essentially, what it is a program and initiative to make sure that Scouts and just people in general have better understanding of each other. Because once again, there's so many different opinions out there. There's so many different life stories, and we all experience something different. And there's lots of miscommunication and misunderstandings in the world as well. And so the Dialogue for Peace program aims to alleviate that by furthering some of the Sustainable Development Goals, which are sitting back here, a bunch of goals created by the United Nations in 2015 to make the world a better place by 2030. And so some of the goals that we push specifically are goal number 4, quality education, or goal 16, which is peace and justice for, stronger peace and justice presence in institutions. And so that's essentially my job, is to rework the activities that are associated with it, really fine tune it so that it's applicable to any Scout age, whether you're 5 years old to 25 years old.
Sounds incredible. So, I mean, just kind of to dig into more of the details of Dialogue for Peace. So, just what are some of the short and long term goals, kind of with revamping the program and just of the program itself? What are some of the short and long term goals Dialogue for Peace hopes to accomplish, and how can you see Scouts being involved?
Sure thing. So some of the short-term goals that we have right now, like some of my personal goals that I have to have done by the end of the month, is we don't have any implementation manuals for Scout leaders, and we don't have any action kits for the young people to actually work with. And so those are the things that I am personally, me and my team, no one's in an island. I have a fantastic team supporting me there. And once again, I'm one of the only people from the USA. And what we need to do is we need to create short term, we need to make new implementation manuals and action kits. And then we need to have those prepared for the World Scout Conference coming up in a few months. Then we are going to hopefully be able to translate those into numerous languages. So that way, the rest of the world has access to it. We're huge on accessibility. We want to make sure that everyone who is curious about Dialogue for Peace is able to get access to the Dialogue for Peace program. Long-term goals, we're trying to measure how is Dialogue for Peace actually impacting people's lives? What are they taking away from it? And so some of the things that we've built into the program that are basically the lifeblood of it, the long-term goals, is we want to see how are we impacting the world? How are we making this world a better place? And we do that through self-assessments. So in the beginning of the program, just a sneak peek for all of you, in the beginning, you're going to see, okay, This is what I think I know about dialogue for peace, about understanding other people, about critical thinking and being empathetic and emotional intelligence. And then you're going to go through the actual program. And then at the end, you do another self assessment and you realize, oh, gee, okay, well, I wasn't as strong in these certain areas, or maybe I was stronger than I expected. And so it's that growth and it's that better self awareness that we aim to target in order to make sure to see how this program and initiative is actually bettering the lives of young people out there.
Emphasis on the individual. I like that.
Mhm.
Well, I mean, just kind of along the same lines, just the individual. Like, let's just put ourselves in the mind of a 14 or 18-year-old scout who's eager to take their scouting adventures to the next level, but may not be
Mhm.
as familiar with what World Scouting has to offer. What would you tell them? Just what would you say to convince them to attend that World Scout Jamboree, a moot or whatnot?
Yes, absolutely. So while they are super life-changing events, and I know so many people who have just had absolutely mind-blowing experiences with them, they are expensive, especially if you live in the USA, and that's okay. What I would advise you to do is you would be surprised how many people want to support you. And so reach out to that aunt or uncle and see how they can support you. Make a fundraiser out of it. Talk to your, if you, instead of not just focusing on world jamborees, but you don't have to travel for an international experience. I know that sounds counterintuitive, but you have the opportunity to meet international camp staff that your council might be supporting or might be sponsoring. Or on the flip side, you could become one of those international camp staff and go to Condorcet International Scout Center as a short-term staff or even a long-term staff. You could also, that's for those 18 and up, by the way. And then you could also, I know a friend who was supposed to be working as an international staffer for a camp in the Czech Republic, but unfortunately due to COVID, I think their plans got a little derailed. But there's tons of opportunities out there for international scout camps. If you have any questions, by all means, please ask me. I would be more than willing to and happy to explain my journey a little bit more in depth or ask and field any questions that you might have in terms of how to get involved more with KISS. But you'd also, well, once again, another emphasis on the, you don't have to leave the country for a massive international experience and to get your feet wet with this stuff, because maybe you don't want to send yourself all the way to France or maybe all the way to Malaysia first thing. Maybe you just want a little bit of a taste of it. I would highly recommend that you get involved with your council's international committee or have a conversation with your council's international relationships coordinator. I'm not sure the exact title, but I think it's international representative. I think it's international representative. So those are going to be your best bets because their entire job is to bring international scouting to the local level. And so, of course, national will have a ton of activities to do. And internationally, you can apply to work at the World Scout Bureau or work at Condorcet International Scout Center. But it doesn't have to, you don't have to uproot your entire life all at once just to get involved.
Sounds like great ways of getting involved in World Scouting. So, just as we're wrapping up this profile, I'd like to just circle back to you, John. What's next, whether it be with the Dialogue for Peace, Scouting, or just your life in general? What comes after this?
Sure. Oh, that's a good question. I wish Jean knew. No. On a serious note, I'm finishing my internship around September-ish, and I will start back school. I currently took a year off just to focus on my professional development, and then I will enter my senior year of college this fall. So as one ends, one will begin, and then hopefully by May I'll be fully graduated, and hopefully before then I will already have started making progress on my first, hopefully, international community building, welfare improving business that hopefully I can get up and running by the time I graduate. If not, then who knows? Maybe I'll still be working for the World Scout Bureau in a different capacity, or maybe I'll try to apply back to KISK because there are tons of positions that need to be filled. We always are looking for more volunteers. From the volunteer side of things, I'm going to be working my hardest on the National Venturing Communications Committee, one of my favorite committees I've ever worked for. But in terms of local stuff, I will be here. I will be here hopefully in Atlanta, and just as a student, hoping support my crew as well. So that's Sean right now, and hopefully Sean in the future.
Sounds great. Well, John, now future, thank you so much for all the work you're doing. Just thank you so much for joining us to be our first profile in World Scouting. person, and thank you to everyone out there who's joining us for this new series. Just thanks again for sharing your experiences with World Scouting. I've definitely learned a lot, and I hope everyone else out there did too. And I look forward to our future profiles in World Scouting. So for everyone out there, if you're interested in watching more of these, feel free to follow our BSA International pages just for more updates. See you around.
Thank you, Connor. Have a good one.
Too.